We all know that Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai ran away from the Romans and he hid in a cave for 12 years. When he came out of the cave, after 12 years, Eliyahu Hanavi came and told him it's safe to exit the cave. He saw people doing their mundane activities, and he'd been away for 12 years, and he couldn't understand it. And he said, why are you busy with such mundane activities? Plowing, planting. Why aren't you busy with Chaye Olam, everlasting life? Things that will bring you Olam Haba. And he burnt up people with his gaze, the Gemara tells us. And Hashem said to him, are you trying to destroy my world? Why are you burning people up with your stare, with your Kedusha? Why is that? And we know he went back into the cave for another 12 months. When he came out after 12 months, the Gemara tells us, his son who came out with him, if his son would hurt someone with his gaze, Reb Shimon bar Yochai had the power to heal him. And instead of burning people up, at the end of the 13th year, he was healing people. He was carrying people. What message did he learn in that 13th year? What was the change that now, after that additional 12 months, his stare, his look, his being was one that lifted up, that healed, instead of one that burnt up? So we have a little bit of a similar story with Eliyahu Hanavi, and perhaps we can learn from the event with Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi, we know, was very upset with the Jewish people. They were worshiping the Baal, and we know Eliyahu Hanavi made a shvuah, a swear, there should be no rain. So people will make tshuva and people will wake up. And we know Eliyahu Hanavi, finally he makes a showdown on Har Carmel, where he says, let the prophets of Baal, of the Avodah Zarah Baal, let them erect a mizbeach, an altar, and I will erect an altar, and we'll see to whom Hashem answers. Whose korban, whose sacrifice will be accepted? And we know the false prophets scream, and Eliyahu Hanavi mocks them, scream louder, and no fire comes down. Their altar, their mizbeach, their korban lays there. And Eliyahu Hanavi says, Aneni Hashem Aneni, and we know, even though he poured buckets of water on his mizbeach, a great fire comes down and burns up the korban. And then the pasuk tells us how Eliyahu Hanavi goes on and he slaughters the 450 prophets, false prophets, of the Baal, of the Avodah Zarah Baal. And then Hashem turns to Eliyahu Hanavi and he tells him, go to Damascus, and over there you'll find Elisha and appoint him as a prophet instead of you. And Rashi tells us, right there, Rashi tells us, Hashem was telling Eliyahu Hanavi, Efshi b'nevuasecha, I don't want your prophecy. You are Melamed Kategora, you are a critic of the Jewish people. You're too harsh, you're too critical. I want Elisha to take over for you. Now, Eliyahu Hanavi clearly meant L'Shem Shamayim. We're talking about Eliyahu Hanavi. But, yes, he meant L'Shem Shamayim, but the Navi is telling us here that Hashem says, I don't want that. Yes, you mean L'Shem Shamayim, but you need to think differently about the Jewish people. You can't be so judgmental. Rather, you need to be more accepting, more tolerant. And what exactly is this? Why? Why should it be tolerant? These people, the Jewish people in that time, were definitely sinning. And Eliyahu Hanavi meant the honor of Hashem. What's the criticism? Why is he losing, so to speak, his status and he has to appoint Elisha? So the Midrash in Shir HaShirim tells us, based on the Pasuk, Al Turuni Shanish Chachores, do not see me as darkened, as sullied with sin, as dirtied. Don't look at me that way. Shezafatzne Hashemesh. Because really, it's just the sun that has darkened me. I'm sunburned. It's not really me. Don't look at me, the Jewish soul that has sinned, as intrinsically dirty. But no, I got sunburned. It's an external thing. When a Jew sins, he's being influenced by the world, but it's not him. It's not him. And that, says the Medrash, was the criticism of Eliyahu Hanavi. And perhaps we could say that was the message that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai learned. That, yes, he saw people involved in mundanities, but it's not really them. They're being distracted. They're out in the sun, they're out in the world, and they're being distracted. But it's not really who they are. They really are beautiful. And as the Pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, Al teruni shanish chachores, don't look at me like I am dark and dirty. No, it's not me. Who am I really? Perhaps that was the message of the 13th year. The Midrash tells us, Yaakov ish tam, Yaakov ish chalak. Yaakov is smooth. Meaning, even when Yaakov sins, the Midrash tells us, he's not like the hairy person. And the Midrash gives a mashal. When a hairy person goes into a dusty room and he comes out, it's entangled inside of him. All the dust, all the dirt. And for him to get rid of that dirt, he has to scrub and wash. But a smooth person just washes it off because it's not him. It's on the outside. If a Jew sins, it's not him. It's just a sunburn. Perhaps that was the message that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai learned in those last and final 12 months. Certainly a message for us to learn.